And one time, I'm proud of myself. Come on in, family. Welcome. I'm Reverend Valerie Love. If we haven't met yet, they call me Kayisi, the Divine Midwife of Soul Destiny. I'm coming to you from my office here in Mexico. So I travel the globe, and right now I currently find myself stationed in Mexico. It is magnificent. I love it. So let's chat. Let's chat, shall we? So today we're having, as we know, Witchy Wednesday. Hey family, I see everybody coming in. Hey Linda, how you loving? I see everyone coming in. We are streaming live to two YouTube channels and Facebook. So we're streaming live to the Valerie Love YouTube channel. We are streaming live to the Christian Witches YouTube channel. And we are streaming live to the Facebook Christian Witches Facebook fan page. Oh my God. Hey Leah. How you loving? Madison, how you loving? Hey family, come on in, because today we're talking about something that's so pivotal to being a Christian witch. Pivotal. And we're going to dive into more deliciousness in this Forbidden Knowledge series. Now, it's not forbidden knowledge because you can't know it. It's forbidden knowledge because most people don't want to know it. And it's not what they talk about in church, okay? How you loving? Hey, Linda, how you loving? It's not what they talk about in church. So family, smash up the likes, smash up the shares, and let's get right into it. So we are going through many aspects of Christianity with a fine-tooth comb and really looking at it and determining how these things came to be. And what's the purpose? Well, I'm a Christian witch, and people always ask, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a Christian witch? Well, you're going to get greater clarity today. So if you've ever had that question, if you've read any of my books, like How to Be a Christian Witch, Confessions of a Christian Witch, Magical Prayers for the Christian Witch, and we have many books on witchcraft, Christian witchcraft especially. That's my jam. That's what I love. You're going to get a lot of clarity today in this conversation. A lot of clarity. A lot. And we're going to answer some questions that we always get. Hey, Kathy, how you loving? I have something for you. So, Kathy, I'm glad you texted me. So glad I'm catching you live. Yay! Happy Witchy Wednesday. And I'm doing Witchy Wednesday later than I usually would. Hey, Darla, how you loving? And all to the YouTube channel subscribers, YouTube channel members. Hey, Jake, how you loving? Channel members, you got a couple of free books coming up. So woohoo on that one. Woohoo. Let's get started. Today we're taking one, Mary Magdalene. And once again, I'm going to give a blanket strap on your seatbelt, because some of the things that I am going to say, people will find heretical, they will find blasphemous, they will find shocking. I just want to get that warning in advance. And yet, I don't see any problem with studying anything. Everything is an open book. Everything is there for you to look at. Hey, Tammy, how you loving? Hey, CC Uncut Blondes, how you loving? Everything is there for us to study, family. So we should not be afraid to go into any territory. You study it, you read it, you don't like it, don't do it again. But there should be no territory that's off limits. Oh my God, you can't talk about that. Oh my God, you can't read books about that. I grew up on that. That's over. Now you can study everything. Go for it. Hey, Len, how you loving? Go for it. Doesn't the Bible say study to show thyself approved? We don't want to stand on what people told us in church. Don't stand on what I say. Study it for yourself, because you can trust it. Every day I'm studying the mysteries. Every day. Let's start with these 7 astonishing, just shocking aspects of Mary Magdalene. So I want to give you an overview of where we're going, and then we're going to go further, okay? Oh, it's easier in the evening. I love it. Number 1, what they won't tell you in church about Mary Magdalene is that there is a gospel of Mary. And in the Gospel of Mary, you can pull it up, you can read it right now, and I've already gone through how the Bible canon came into existence. So if you did not watch that video, go and watch that video, and then also come on into this one, okay? Divine timing, I love it. Oh my goodness, Linda, I love that message, I love it. Hi, Anab, how are you loving? So if you haven't watched that video yet on how did the whole Bible come together, watch that video and then come to this video as well. That video is going to give more, it's going to fill in more. The Gospel of Mary. Pull it up, read it. Now, there's one thing about the Gospel of Mary, it's not in its complete totality. There are a few pages missing here and there, so you sort of have to read what's there. You're not really able to see the whole thing. Yet, what's there is very telling. So that's the first thing, is that the Gospel of Mary was not included in the canon at all, but as we've already discussed, there are over 40 Gospels. We know about 4 where there's 10 times as many Gospels as there are in the Bible, okay? Now let's go to number 2. Mary Magdalene is a consistent player in all 4 of the Gospels that we do have. Now we understand these 4 Gospels agree on not that many things. They don't agree on details of events. They don't agree on the order of events. And I believe, because it's what I spoke in that other video, none of these things were written down until 70 years after Christ and afterwards. This was all an oral tradition. And we understand what happens with oral traditions. They change, they morph, they become bigger. You keep telling a story, I tell you the story, you tell the next person the story, you tell the next person the story. The story is bound to grow. All of this was oral for decades after the death of Christ. So can we really expect all these oral things to agree? Of course not. That's why the Gospels don't agree, because these are people passing on stories. Now, there is something, though, that all 4 Gospels agree on. This is point number 2 of the 7 that we're going through. Point number 2 is that Mary Magdalene is a consistent player in all 4 Gospels. So as I just mentioned, that's a strange enough thing right there, because they don't really line up. Yet, there is one commonality in all of them: Mary. Very fascinating. And not only is Mary a commonality to all 4 Gospels, Mary is the only person, listen very carefully to this. Hey, Jared, how you loving? How you loving? How you loving? Hey, Foma, how you loving? Mary is the only person who was at Christ's death, crucifixion, resurrection, his embodiment, his resurrection, and his ascension. She was the only one present at all of them. And she was the first one he appeared to in all four Gospels. Now that's very telling, that all 4 Gospels that we have, of course there's many more than 4 Gospels, like I said in the other video, go watch that. I find it fascinating. You know, I love the Bible. I love reading all this stuff. I love holy books. I love mysteries, ancient mysteries. I love ancient old scrolls. They pull out the ground, you know, they're crumbling and falling apart, and this scroll and that scroll. I love that shit. I mean, I eat it for breakfast. Well, this is very fascinating about the Bible. Ooh, Mary is the wife of Christ, and his bloodline survives. Absolutely, Jerry. Absolutely. Hey, Jerry, how you doing? So I find it extremely telling that Mary Magdalene, the only person that was there the entire time, the death, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and the ascension, and all 4 Gospels put her at the same place. Now, if you were building a case in a court of law, this would be a really good case. All 4 Gospels put her as the first person Christ appeared to when he came back from the resurrection. Why don't they talk about this in church? Why don't they focus on Mary Magdalene as more than a whore? That's going to be that's number 3. We're still on number 2. Why don't they focus on the importance of Mary Magdalene as far as the resurrection of Christ and the first person he appeared to? Like, if you're coming back from the dead and you're appearing to someone, the first person you want to appear to probably is the closest person to you. So Christ appears to her, and I always found this fascinating, right? There's this fascinating part about Mary in the Bible. Let me see what Anab is saying. Hi, dear. Do you know Virgin Mary has whole chapter in the Holy Quran and Muslim believe and love Jesus Christ? Oh, that is beautiful. I love it. I didn't know that. I did know that Islam has many commonalities with Christianity, all of them being the Abrahamic religions, and that there is a lot about Solomon too that I've been fascinated to read about in the Quran. I've heard so many delicious things about the Quran. I love all holy books. If it's a holy book, it's for me. I love all holy books. So on this channel, we serve all faith walks, all colors, all creeds, all people of all kinds. We exclude no one. Everyone is welcome in love. Let's see what Jared is saying. Also, the Masons and Templars, let me look at Masons and Templars because Jared he's got deep knowledge on this kind of stuff. Jared and I have been friends for years. Knew this, and those who are in the societies had artists and all the old paintings that show people putting middle and ring finger together, making their, continue, okay, let's go to the next one, making their hand look like symbolizing Magdalene and showing the belief in bloodline. There it is, ding, 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 ding. So we see that there was some kind of really tight, close relationship, which we'll dig deeper into in this conversation between Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. And the other thing that I've always found very fascinating when I used to read the Gospels, when I read the Gospels, this occurred to me years ago when I was still in the cult. And evangelical Christianity and a lot of churches will try to make you believe certain things. And I'm not here to make you believe anything. I'm a minister, and I'm a minister that here to support you in coming to your own understanding of God, whatever that is for you, right? There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. There's 7.5 billion ways to God. So we're not going to fight over that, right? We can't fight over God. So I always found this fascinating. Years ago, even when I was still in the cult, I grew up in a cult. I always found it very fascinating when I would read these Bible stories, because I love Bible stories. Read these Bible stories, and when one of them, it said that Mary came to his burial, where he was buried, to bring herbs, right? The anointing, to anoint the body for burial, for a proper burial. And he was not there. And she, of course, we know the story, the tomb was open, no one was in there. And in some stories you hear that there's an angel sitting in there. Why are you looking for the dead? Why are you looking for the living among the dead? And then in some stories you hear that Mary Magdalene was by herself. And in some stories it was Mary Magdalene and other women. All the stories say Mary Magdalene. So Mary Magdalene saw that he was the gardener. And the gardener said, he had appeared as a gardener. He's probably trying to look like somebody that no one would notice was Jesus. Okay, so she said, she didn't even recognize him. She said, have you seen where they've laid him? Because, she must be distraught. The body's not there. And back in the day, you had to have that body. You had to have the body. Now, we'll talk about that in another conversation. The body was very important. You could not properly help the soul ascend without the body. The body is very important. So she's looking for this body. And he says to her, Mary. And she's like, it's you. He said one word. All he said was, Mary. And she was like, all the pieces grabbing him, hugging him. And he said, stop clinging to me. Like, she was all over him. This wasn't just like, oh, glad to see you. Pat, 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 hug, we're good friends. She was all up on him like a spouse, like a intimate person. You don't just accost the person of a rabbi or a great teacher like that. Like, there was an intimacy there, an undeniable. It's in the Bible. Look at it. Look at it. They won't talk about that, but look at it. Lynn. Oh my goodness, it's called The Telephone Game. The original message is never delivered as it was. Isn't that the truth? Lynn, what social media platforms that I'm on? It's on ValerieLove.com. Click on About. I've updated the social media platforms that I'm on. So here we have in number 2 about these 7 astonishing things about Mary Magdalene that the church certainly is not going to be talking about. You're not going to hear this from the pastor in church on Sunday, okay? Not a regular pastor anyway. The second thing is that she's this consistent player in all the stories, even though these 4 gospels are very inconsistent. When we now go to number 3, she was not a prostitute. Family, she was not a prostitute. She was not a prostitute. Never was a prostitute. So how did we get the thought? Because it's in everybody's mind that Mary Magdalene is a prostitute. She was not a prostitute, never was a prostitute. Prostitute is nothing to do with Mary Magdalene. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Where did this come from? A dumbass pope. Now, I have respect for the Catholic Church, and I have respect for all the people who do what they do. At the end of the day, we're all people who make mistakes. And this particular pope didn't have his facts straight. It happens to me. I mean, it could happen to anybody. We don't always have our facts straight. And he got 3 Marys conflated into one Mary. The Mary who was the prostitute who washed, who washed Jesus' feet and dried it with her hair. The Mary that anointed you. It was a lot of Marys. I mean, Mary is a common name, right? Mary is like Susie back in the day. And Mary Magdalene, and then the Mary, supposedly Mary Magdalene, and the Mary that had the 7 demons cast out, and the Mary that washed Jesus' feet before his death and burial. So he just took all the Marys and threw them together into one and said, Mary Magdalene was the same Mary as this other Mary, same Mary as this other Mary. These are different Marys. These are different people. These are not all the same people. It's very interesting how they think women are just exchangeable. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what that pope was thinking. I don't know. All I do know is that it took 1,500 years, something like that, for the Catholic Church to correct itself. And a pope, I think it was in the 1960s, I have the exact dates written down, I'm not going by memory right now. Forgot Mother Mary. Mother Mary wasn't in this configuration. Now we have Mother Mary, right? We know Mother Mary. She's not mixed up with anyone else. We know this great mother, by the way, who is descended from many other great mother goddesses, but that's a story for another day. That this Mary concept was confused by the Pope, and later on, something like 1,500 years later, the Catholic Church recanted, came out, and apologized for calling her a prostitute, withdrew that, yet and elevated her day, because there was a day for her, to a feast day, which is only for saints. So they elevated her. Now, let me ask you a question. Don't you still know people that still think of Mary Magdalene in their mind as a prostitute and a whore? Like, it's still stuck. I don't know if any people even know. I had to go and research and dig and find that the Catholic Church actually recanted that and withdrew their inaccurate portrayal. I can't say if it was on purpose, if it was a mistake, I don't know. I don't know intentions, I only know what occurred, and now it's clear. So that's number 3. Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute, never was a prostitute. That was a mistake of a pope, and it was corrected later. Okay, yeah, isn't that fascinating, Kathy? We gotta clear this up and clean this up because we have inaccuracies in our minds, and why when they can be cleared up, right? Number 4, and I'm going to tell you what all this has to do with Christian witchcraft in a moment, and why I call myself a Christian witch. This is integral to why I am a Christian witch. Now, for all the other Christian witches, I cannot speak for any other Christian witch other than myself, and I will tell you exactly what this has exactly to do with my walk as a Christian witch, or a crystal paganism, or Christian Wicca. There are many, many, many forms, many strands, flavors of people who love Christ and are somehow magical, right? Maybe wizards or warlocks or witches or magical beings who also love Christ and love his teachings and love his life and love to read the Bible. Like, that's not strange. That there are magical beings that love to read the Bible. Nothing wrong with that. Number 4, Mary Magdalene was a wealthy woman who did not have an attachment to a man. This is very fascinating because back in the day, you wore your father's name or your husband's name. The women were like property. They passed you from one place to another, right? They passed you from your father to your husband. Not so with Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene, her name, Mary Magdalene, did not denote ownership by any man or relationship with any man. She was from Magdala, so she's Mary of Magdala, and that's how she got the name Mary Magdalene. So it was more, her name was associated with her origin, not with a man, and that very uncommon, because usually you have this woman, daughter of this, or Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus. See, so they're always going to connect some woman, and you look at all the women that were around Jesus, which were a lot of women. There were a group of women. And you look at these women, and this one is the father of the daughter of this one, or this one was the wife of this one, or this one was the sisters of this one. They have some connection to a man to somehow, I don't know if it's to legitimize the woman or what. I don't know. You had to have some kind of man connection, which is just, hey, it's more of, I don't know. I guess men love to do that. I don't know. I don't have any comments on that. Let's skip over that bear. Let's just go to the fact that Mary Magdalene had no such male ownership. And this was a wealthy woman. This is a woman of means. As a matter of fact, Mary Magdalene and some of the other women were funding Christ's ministry. They were the ones with the money. You think Judas Iscariot was the treasurer, or the one that was holding the money? That's what some people say. It was the women. The women had the money. Not unlike today, where I know a whole rack of husbands, including the husbands that I used to have. One of my husbands in particular, not so much the second one. The first one definitely used to just give me all the money and just do whatever. I know a lot of men that do that. They're just like, they give their woman all the money and she does this and she got the books and the papers. And there's a lot of men that just don't want to be bothered with that. And they trust their mate and their partner, and the woman will, or in the case of maybe couples that are not man and woman, because there's all different kinds of configurations of relationships on the planet, there could be one who's very much the number crunching one, and there could be the one that's more the carefree one. I was a financial planner. You always got very interesting combinations of couples. You always got couples that one was the spender, and one was the saver. You always got one that was sort of like free flowing with the money, and one that was like this very analytic, line by line, knew where every dollar was. So what I'm saying is that these are different energies, right? And that these things really help us to understand the mechanics of how this was working back in the day. Jared says, let's look at some of these comments. Soul Whisperer, it's always the good sisters of the church. Isn't that the truth? Jared says, Aletheia, the original translation was Elohim, which means spiritual beings. Like, I love that. Elohim, capital E, is God, but original Greek showed it was Elohim, lowercase. And Elohim, does Elohim mean sons of God? The capital E means God, and with the lower E, does it mean sons of God? Help me out, our Jewish brothers and sisters, okay? Sisters, brothers, and others. All right, let's look at, I read that the act of a woman washing the feet was something only a spouse would do. Wow. Wow, that's fascinating, isn't it? Now, let's go further with these understanding. And God is known as God of gods, King of gods. Okay, means spiritual beings. I mean spiritual beings. Okay, Jared is very, very knowledgeable on these things. Very knowledgeable. So number 3, not a prostitute. Number 4, wealthy. I'll give you all 7 again as a review as we go through. So number 4, wealthy, not reliant upon a man, not identified by a man, not owned by a man. So you really have this independent, wealthy woman, which is very odd for the Bible. It's very odd. Number 5, this is where it gets dicey. Christ's wife now is Mary Magdalene. Now, Dan Brown was really the first one to break this globally, I think, to the mass consciousness, that Christ had a wife, and his wife was Mary Magdalene. And that, as Jared said, they were a couple and they had children. And according to what I've seen by the temples in France, the churches in France, because what they said was that after Jesus was crucified, they put Mary and the child and a few other people on a boat and sort of exiled them, sort of put the boat out into the sea with no oars and no means of navigating the boat, and just kind of put them out to sea. And the boat just kept like going and going and going until it hit like France. And they disembarked in France. And they say there are many temples. I've seen some of these pictures of churches in France that have this mother with this holy child, not Jesus, a daughter, a actual Mary who is Mary Magdalene, not Mother Mary. Mary Magdalene with a daughter, not a son. And that this is the child of Christ. Now, Christians don't like the idea that Jesus was married or could have even had sex. And I don't know why. Why can't Jesus have sex? I don't understand that. Why can't, I mean, he was 30 something years old. You think he was a virgin the whole time? I never believed that. I thought that was ridiculous and ludicrous. I mean, come on, people. Come on, people. I mean, he damn near disappeared from the Bible from the time he was little to the time he was born. Then he went to 11 when he was at the temple and got lost. And we know that story around 11, 12. You should know I'm in the house of my father. He was there with teaching the high priests, teaching in the temple. And then next thing you know, he's 30, about to get baptized by John. Wait a minute. The Bible has like these big gaps. It was then, and then we jumped to 12, and then we jumped to 30. Well, what happened in between? Do you ever ask yourself these questions? Or am I the only one sitting there pondering, asking people in church, here's me, raising my hand in church, what happened, Valerie? Okay, I'm asking too many questions. These people are not going to answer my questions. And right now they're about to toss me out of the place, which eventually happened. They tossed me out of the place because this was not adding up, and I'm a thinking person, and I like logic and reason, and I like to discuss intelligent topics, and I'm not going by a party line, and I'm not going by what people told me to believe. Church is there to teach you what to believe and to teach you what to think. It's not there to teach you how to think. Church is like a kindergarten. It's very necessary. I don't say burn down the churches. No. Sure, we need church. Church is very lovely. There are a lot of people that are getting their life in church. If it exists for some useful purpose in God's plan, and I am humbly accepting of all churches, all holy houses. As a matter of fact, I've been in so many holy houses all around the world. I love them. What I'm saying is, if you're going to go on the hero's quest of your own journey, it will necessarily take you beyond the holy house of your origin. Why? Because your soul's quest is a solitary journey. You can't go with a gang of people on a soul's quest. Was Harry Potter with a gang of people? Yeah, he had a couple of friends. When it came to meeting Lord Voldemort, this is a solitary thing. You got to go. You got Dumbledore helping you from the great beyond. You got to do it. When we look at Dorothy, yeah, she had a couple of friends, but what did she have to do? She had to click her heels and go home. She couldn't take all of them with her. Toto was, the love and loyalty icon, right? He was the, I guess you could say, archetype of love and loyalty. She had to click her heels and go home. You can't take everybody with you on your spiritual journey. That's not what a spiritual journey is about. A spiritual journey is necessarily a solitary journey. And at times it's very lonely. Did Jesus have other people in the wilderness with him? No. He went, he got baptized, and then after that, where was he? He was in the wilderness. Many times, what did they say? He would go out to a lonely place to pray. Yeah, you come around people, you associate with people, you hang with people. Your journey will be like no one else's. It's so unique to you because every soul is so unique. So you can't, just mass, we just gonna call everybody in church and say this prayer exactly like this. Hail Mary, full of grace, da 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 da. Okay, we all say the same prayer. Okay, we all come here at the same time. Okay, we all come here at the same time. Okay, we all wear the same thing. Okay, we're kind of wearing the same thing. Okay, we all get the same holy water splashed on us. Okay, that's only going to take you so far. And there's a very good reason why the religions exist. I love religion. The religions exist for a purpose. The name religion, relink. It's supposed to, you're kind of crazy and you need some solace or you need some community or you need some singing or feeling good or whatever. You're going to go and kumbaya to the church, right? It's lovely. I love the gospel music. I like all of that stuff. I love it. It's not the ultimate. It's a stepping stone. It's a map. It's not the destination. But some people set up a tent in church and they're there forever. When do you ever fucking graduate this thing? That's what I was wondering. You go to church. When do we graduate? When do we graduate church? You never graduate church. You're going to be here forever. Forever? Yes, until you die. What works like that in life? Nothing. You go to the job, you work, you get a promotion. You keep working, you get another promotion. Then if you go to school and you are in kindergarten, you're going to graduate kindergarten, you're going to go to first grade. We already know you're going to graduate elementary school, you're going to go to middle school. It's newer and it's bigger. You're going to graduate middle school, you go to high school, college, into the world. And it keeps going. That's evolution. Evolution is not staying in one place for years and years and years. Although I have nothing against people that stay in church years and years and years. If it's serving you, do it. It wasn't serving me. Now, it had its place. I will say that. It had its place and its purpose. It wasn't for me to stay there forever. Let's continue. So this number 5 is that this is actually the consort of Christ. It even says it in one of the Gospels, Jesus' wife. It says it very clear. Jesus' wife. Jesus had a wife and a kid. As far as I know, that's my story. I'm sticking with it, and I agree with you as well, Jared, that is very good evidence. It says it, Jesus' wife in the Gospels, which is why they would have to eliminate those Gospels because they want to keep this whole idea of Jesus being elevated toward God, and they want him to be this pristine person that never stuck his penis in a vagina. I mean, I don't want to be irreverent, but I am an irreverent minister. I'm not with that story. Just never was. Didn't make sense. Didn't add up to me. So you can get to believe anything you want. Number 6. Mary was a master teacher of the secret teachings, the mysteries of Christ. Now let's go deeper into this. Now let's look at this. We're talking about Elohim. I love this. We got some amazing comments here in the chat. I love it. Y'all are super smart. I'm telling you. It's funny how all people always call God the Father, but part of the Father's job is to teach his children to be self-sufficient adults. So isn't part of God's job to teach us to become gods like him? Yes. That is exactly right, Lawrence. That is exactly right. And I was just watching a video. I was watching these deconversion videos, which I'm going to do a deconversion video as well. These deconversion videos on YouTube are so fascinating. Just look it up. All the people that left the church and why they left the church. And they're saying some very fascinating things. Fascinating. I love hearing about people's spiritual journeys because it's just so fascinating. Well, Lawrence, one of the things that it was saying in these deconversion videos is that churches actually kind of keep you kind of poor and kind of not thriving. Like the church is kind of anti-wealth. Well, I don't want to say kind of. Some places it's very anti-wealth. It's better, easier for a camel to pass through the needle's eye than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. And so there's this underlying message or current that you're not really supposed to be that successful, that rich, that wealthy. Tune it down. I say tune it all the way up. No need to be poor. You can't help people being poor. That's what I found. Next, this number 6, and then we're going to recap all 7. This number 6, these secret teachings of Christ. She is a master teacher. Now, here's a really fascinating part about being a master teacher of Christ's mysteries. He taught her things that other people could not grasp. So when Christ passed on, there were factions of Christianity. There were different factions of Christianity, and some of them were warring factions. Some of them were warring with each other. You probably never heard this in church, because I never heard this in church. I had to find out for myself. And some were like, no, Peter's the one. And that's kind of pretty much the Catholic Church, right? They view Peter as the one, the rock upon whom God built the church. Other strands said that Mary was the one. Now, Mary was such a powerful master teacher that they actually have sort of this little skirmish where one of the disciples says, oh, now a woman's going to be teaching us? And the other one says, pipe down, because you know Jesus loves her more than he loves all the rest of us. And so one was kind of a little bit of an upstart, like, oh, I'm not going to have the woman teach me. And another one was like, chill, because we know he loves her, and she probably is right. So you see warring, I don't want to say warring factions, you see different factions of Christianity, and there are not, you are not, you don't have just one Christianity. Just like today, you don't have one Christianity. Number 7, this is what I came to understand about Mary Magdalene. And this, we talked about this the other day in a Clubhouse room. I'm on Clubhouse. Please join us on Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse teaching every morning, Monday through Friday. I love it, at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. A Course in Miracles and our tarot card for the day. This is what I want to say about Mary Magdalene. And this is, I'll tell you what someone else in the room said. Mary Magdalene received something beyond the teachings of Christ. She actually received enlightenment. Ooh. He passed enlightenment to her. He conveyed enlightenment to her as the womb, and she conveyed it to other people exactly like a divine marriage. You have seed, which is the male. You have a womb where the seed is implanted, which is the female. They were the ultimate yin, yang, masculine, feminine, this wholeness, because we can't have, they say a religion without a goddess is halfway to atheism, right? We got all these he gods, he. Well, Christ was not this he person. He regarded women as completely equal and the same as men, and he regarded her as such, listen to this, her capacity. Listen, family, you cannot pass enlightenment to anyone. You can't take a knucklehead off the street and pass something to them that they're going to hold as a divine chalice. Many do call her the actual golden chalice, this actual chalice that they were looking for in the Knights of the Round Table, right? What do you call that again? That goblet, that golden goblet thing they were looking for. Y'all know what I'm talking about, family. What's the name of that thing they were looking for? The quest for the Holy Grail, right? She's it. She is the representation of the Holy Grail, right? So here we are. She is the womb. She is the holder of the ancient mysteries. She is the holder, the womb in which Jesus impregnated her, the chalice, thank you. He implanted enlightenment. And you cannot give this to just anyone. So she had to have had a consciousness that could receive this enlightenment. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I never knew, that someone told me the other day in a clubhouse room. An amazing being came into our clubhouse room the other day, and she said this. She said, I'm so happy you said that. I was talking about Mary Magdalene and all these things. She said, I'm so happy you said that, because if you go to Florence, Italy right now, and you go into the museum, I believe it was a museum, she said, where they keep the David, I think chiseled by Michelangelo. Michelangelo chiseled David, that statue of the David. She said, if you make two lefts, you make a left, you're standing facing the David, you make a left and another left, it will take you into a room. And in that room is a work of art from the 12th century. And what we know about the 12th century is they were very big into Mary and Jesus, Mary and Jesus, Mary and Jesus, Mary Magdalene and Jesus. This is not happening in the church today. Back then, it was a thing. It was hot until, some powers that be put an end to that. Yet we can still find the vestiges. And on this work of art, she said there are these vignettes. And the vignettes show that Christ Mary, that Christ has this enlightenment. I'm giving you a description as I received it from her, so I might not be completely accurate because I haven't seen this artwork myself yet. I am certainly going to get over there. Ooh, we talked about that in the Da Vinci Code. Come on. I love it. So it shows Christ with the Christ consciousness. Then it shows him passing it, not like he didn't have it anymore. It's an expansion, an extension, right? He's not taking it out of himself and giving it to someone else. That's not how it works. He is a conveyor of enlightenment, like the Buddha can touch you and he's still enlightened and you're enlightened too. He's not minusing something from himself to add something to you. In spirit realms, when you add something to someone else, you grow it in yourself. So Christ has this enlightenment, just like the Buddha, and he is bequeathing the enlightenment, gifting the enlightenment to Mary, who is receiving it. And you can see very clearly in these series of vignettes exactly what's happening. It's not a mystery, it's not a question. It's Jesus with Mary Magdalene, and the other apostles were not around, and he gave her something that no one else had. That's the bottom line of it. He gave her something that no one else had. I think maybe no one else has to this day. And he did not give it to Peter. And a lot of people argue for Peter. Okay? All right. So, yeah, I think, isn't this incredible, Jared? Jared, we're on the same page with this, because Mary Magdalene has always been she just holds a really beautiful place in my heart. Now, let me go to why I'm a Christian witch and what this has to do with me being a Christian witch. People say, you can't be a Christian witch. That would be accurate if you were following Christianity as it's spewed in much churches today. That's not the Christianity I follow. I don't follow Nicene Christianity. Nicene Christianity was made up in the 300s, as I've already outlined in many of the videos. Nicene Christianity was made up. It's a construct by a bunch of bloodthirsty, pedophile Romans. The Romans, there's no secret that the Romans were bloodthirsty. They had bloodlust and they were pedophiles. They kept houseboys and they would routinely fuck them. And those are the people that made up Nicene Christianity. No, thank you. Look it up. You ain't got to listen to this witch over here. Look it up. And I say things that are hard for people to understand. Not hard to understand, hard to swallow. I say a lot of things that are hard to swallow. Like, no. Like nobody wants to hear anything like that about the Catholic Church. None of these things are secrets anymore. We live in the information age. It's called Google. It's called YouTube. It's called search. It's called study. It's called pull up books, pull up ancient manuscripts. It's called go deep, go down the rabbit hole. I mean, these are matters pertaining to the soul. Wouldn't you want to know the truth? Or do you want to just be satisfied with whatever they tell you in church? I don't recommend that. I don't think it's going to be for your highest spiritual benefit. So all these things are here for us family to look at. I love living in this age of humanity because we get to study things that no age before us had access to all these things. Now it's on the internet. Like even in the 1950s and 1940s when they were pulling, the Nag Hammadi library out of old jars, pottery jars, and the scrolls were like falling apart and they were opening these scrolls. But thanks to the dryness of Egypt that kept these things for so long, right? Even as they were pulling those scrolls out, even if you lived in the 40s and the 50s, you didn't have access to them because they were pulling them out of the ground. Now you have access to them. They've pulled them out of the ground. They photocopied them in a way that's sustainable, that can keep the scrolls. And they've been translating the scrolls so that you can now read them all in English. How easy can it get with a Google search? You can't sit in church anymore. Now, if you were in the 40s and the 50s, you would have to believe what people told you because, hey, I don't have no other evidence. I guess I got to go with this story because I have no proof otherwise. And I look crazy just being a dissenter, rebel without a cause. Maybe the pastor is right. It sounds good to me. It's a story like any other story. You just gotta go along with the story because what choice did you have in the 40s or the 30s or the 1800s or the 1700s? You couldn't even read if you lived in the 1600s. You're just standing there in the town square. Hear ye, and they open up a scroll and read it to you. Okay, that's what the king said. I guess that's what it is, huh? That's what it is? Yeah, that's what it is. We don't know the difference. We can't read. But now you can read. You have all the information at your fingertips. I'm surprised any people are still in church. I really am. That's probably why church closed last year and didn't open back up again. I was asking my daughter the other day, because she does church sometimes, with her father, which is beautiful. And I was like, oh, did y'all go to church on Easter? She said, no, Mom. I was like, what? You only go to church on Easter? She said, Mom, church is still closed. I'm like, oh. We made a collective decision to close church because these things can easily be proven that church is not what they told us. So I'm not saying burn all the churches. What I'm saying is do your research and come to some new conclusions. If you just stay in what they taught you, oh, Jesus is the way, and the Bible says, and you can do that. You can do that. I don't see the growth in it. I don't see the expansion of consciousness in it, the ascension, the becoming God, getting in touch with your God powers, having the existential conversation with the universe about who you really are and where you're from and what you're really about, and about the soul and matters of the soul and your place in this whole cosmos. I love talking about stuff like that. I don't see any advancement in those arenas if you just stay stuck in what people taught you. I just had to go beyond what people taught me. Okay, let's look at Megan. All right, Megan. Horus, Vishnu, and Christ have very similar, I love it, stories. Is it possible Christ has been here before? Come on. Is it possible Christ has been here before? Let me read this. To try to pass on his enlightenment, and when he wasn't understood, death to him, perhaps passing his enlightenment to Mary was how he got the message across. Even with his demise. That is genius. Sounds good to me. I say yes, amen. Church, amen. That sounds good to me. Because the Christ, there's something enduring about this Christ story. And Christ is not the only one with this story. Read 16 crucified saviors and you're going to find these commonalities. And Mithras was already pretty much Christ before Christ, right? Mithras was well beyond before Christ. And Mithras, pretty much the same thing, born December 25th, had 12 apostles, died some kind of what's the word I want to, some kind of torturous death as sort of this sacrificial kind of being. Even if you look at Isis, Osiris, and Horus, Horus, son of the great mother, Isis, and so Horus is probably an older Christ. And if you look at all of these things, you will see that Christ is not the first one that we have this same story, born of a virgin. They have to elevate him to God. And this whole born of a virgin is very important because they have to make it that this person is not touched by iniquity, that this person is somehow not human, miraculous birth, a virgin birth, very important for the woman to be a virgin. Virgins play very big into a lot of religious systems though. Virgins are like the quintessential purity of the world, right? That's the representative, that's the archetype. So you have this born of a virgin, and this is a common motif. We read Joseph Campbell, Hero with a Thousand Faces. Read, study Mithras. And if you're in a place where they tell you don't study, I would leave that place because I would study. That's going to be the first red flag. If they tell you don't read the other gospels, well, thank you. I'm going straight to the other gospels. Let's go through our 7. Number 1, 7 astonishing things about Mary Magdalene you never knew. Number 1, the Gospel of Mary. There's a Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Read it. The portions that we have of it anyway. Thus far, we have not found the entire Gospel, yet the portions that you can read are quite shocking. Number 2, she is a consistent player in all 4 Gospels and the only person that was the first person to be the beautiful revealer that Christ was alive and was at his crucifixion, the resurrection, and the ascension, which we know the ascension happened 40 days after the resurrection, right? Now, I believe, let me check my facts on that one, because there's so many fact checkers around these days. You got to be on point with what you're talking about. Okay. Why did they exclude some books? That's an excellent question, Pam. And Pamela, in the video that I did 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, on how the Bible canon was created, and I did the timeline and everything. Go watch that video. It has all the details with the exact dates. I did the research to give you the exact dates of how the Bible came to be put together. It's not one big storybook. There's a big process. So number 3, she's not a prostitute. Number 4, she's a wealthy woman, not connected to any man, not owned by any man. Number 5, she is Christ's consort. She is Christ's wife. Number 6, she is a master teacher in her own right who was privy to the secret teachings of Christ that other people just couldn't understand. Number 7, she is the enlightened, I call her the enlightened womb. She is the archetype. And I don't really look at Jesus and Mary and all these other people as actual real people. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. That's not the most important part to me. The most important part is, what am I taking from this that I can use in my life right now? This channel is about practical spirituality. I don't like to just talk about esoteric things and then you can't use it. We want to use it, right? To make our lives better and to make the life of everyone around us better. So I call her number 7, the enlightened womb, because she received not only the secret teachings of Christ, as we stated in number 6, she received actual enlightenment from Christ. Isn't that profound? Hey, how are you? I'm going to be wrapping up in just a couple of minutes. Is that okay?
No, you can be, it doesn't matter, you can stay here. Just, could you please give the access card to the lady who's in?
And downstairs? Oh, the lady right here. Oh, sure. And the key?
And the key too.
Okay, yes. Very good. I'll do that. Thank you. We're just wrapping up some business with my office because I am going to be traveling a little bit. I'll tell you more about that later. So I'm going to be moving out of my office today. I've been here a month already. Can you believe it? So to wrap up, she is the enlightened womb, the actual receptacle, as an archetype, the receptacle of enlightenment from Christ's consciousness. And then this womb gives birth, literally and physically, to this Christ consciousness to spread around this whole world. Could you really have the spread of something around the whole world without the feminine essence? No. Could you have a whole world full of people without women? No. You have to have sperm and eggs. You have to have both to get humans. And however you do it, if you do in vitro or if you do, somehow some sperm and some eggs have got to get together to make people. And we have the same thing in spirituality. And please understand that masculine and feminine has nothing to do with penises and vaginas. I say that all the time. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with energy. Everything is energy. That's our conversation for today. I hope this was helpful. I love sharing with you. Love it, love it, love it. I am a Christian witch. And by the way, go to valerylove.com and go to christianwitches.com, follow the blog. And also pick up the books. And if you have the books, How to Be a Christian Witch, I have a whole Christian Witchcraft series. If you have any of the books, would you please leave a review? Oh my God, that would be so beautiful if you left a review on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you read. Like the video, subscribe, share the video, because I love sharing this information with the world. Let's enlighten everyone. I love you, family. God bless you. Casey out. Peace.